We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about why, as that weather and water get colder, you're struggling to put bass in the boat. It's a pretty simple fix. Stick around, we're going to talk all about it.
I got him. Not a bad one either.
And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And even though it looks like things here in South Mississippi have warmed up dramatically, they really haven't. It was down in the upper 20s last night, and right now it's probably 52 or 53 degrees. I'm not wearing that jacket because I had to come out of it. I'm from Chicago. I'm a Yankee. It's where I grew up. So I'm used to the cold. So it doesn't take me nearly as long to adjust as it does everybody else around here. I had to come out of that jacket because out here in the sun recording this video, I was sweltering. And believe it or not, that actually has a lot to do with what we're talking about today when we're talking about not getting bites in bass fishing during the winter time. See, winter bass fishing is its own animal, and it's cold, it's windy, it can be miserable. And if you're not catching fish, then why even bother? It's already tough enough. But if you know why you're not catching fish, and remember, there's only ever two reasons. There's only ever two reasons why you're not going to catch fish. And it doesn't even matter what species. It can be trout, catfish, tuna. You're not going to catch fish if, number one, there's no fish in the area. If you're fishing empty water, and we've talked about that, those bass are grouped up into large schools right now. And that means much of the water you're fishing is dead water. You're going to have to go bass hunting. You're going to have to find out where they are. And if you're like me, you don't have any electronics, or you're a bank angler, you have to rely on what you're seeing, what you know about bass patterns and behavior. That's why it's real key to understand those things. If you've got the electronics, and more power to you, that's really going to even things up. It's really going to make things quite a bit easier. But if you don't have them, you can still locate bass, and it's not nearly that hard. So what's the second reason? Well, the second reason why you're not going to catch fish is simply those bass are not interested in what you're throwing. You're throwing the wrong lure, or you're working that lure in the wrong fashion. There's several reasons why, but it boils down to they're not interested in what you have to throw. So you can dial that in. In the wintertime, it's pretty easy. Go slower, go smaller. Change those things up. Chances are you can get a few bites, or you can get some interest, and you can start dialing that in. See, my wife hasn't been in the videos lately. A lot of you have noticed that, wondering where Mrs. Lowbrow is. Well, she doesn't fish when it's cold. She doesn't want to be out there in that wind, in that weather, chattering her teeth. But the thing about it is that she does trust me. So when I tell her there's some great fishing to be done, it's great out there, she actually went with me the last time. I actually convinced her to go with me, and it was cold. It was about 34, 35 degrees when we hit the water, and the wind was about 10 or 15 miles an hour. So not fun, right? I don't care what part of the country you're in. That's going to chill you to the bone, 6 or 7 hours of that. But she went out there with me regardless, and she didn't know if she was going to like it. She didn't know if it was going to be productive. She was just humoring me. And you know what? She caught fish. She caught more fish than I did. The thing about my wife is she's real slow and real patient when it comes to bass fishing. Way more than I am. I tend to get antsy. I tend to rush things. But she can fish very slow. So fishing in winter is tailor-made for her. And that reflected the last time we were out because of how many fish she caught. She caught way more fish than I did. And she started, as usual, if you are a usual viewer, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, then you know that my wife catches fish pretty early when we're out there, and she usually puts me to shame all day. But the point is how we were fishing. And again, why am I not wearing a jacket? See, I'm acclimated to the cold right now. It's been cold for almost a week. Those bass are acclimated to the cold right now. They can do that. They live in that environment. If they didn't get acclimated to it, well, they'd be dead. They would not be able to survive and bass would go extinct. And because they obviously haven't gone extinct, that means that they have acclimated to the cold, that they can adapt, they can thrive. They might slow things down. That's probably part of one of their adaptations, right? That's how they adapt, is by slowing things down and using less energy. As those bass get acclimated to the current conditions over a course of several days, doesn't matter if it's hot, doesn't matter if it's cold, doesn't matter if it's sunshine or rainy or what have you, you give anything a chance to get used to it, and before long, things will go back to normal. However, it does change how and where those bass are setting up. And I know you're asking, Lowbrow, I don't find the bass. Where are they? Are they deep or are they shallow? And the answer is yes. Yes, they are. And I know that doesn't make any sense on the surface. I just said 90% of the lake is empty. Those bass are grouped up. How can they be both shallow and deep? Well, think about this for a second. Think about in terms of the water column, not distance from the bank. You think of it in 3D, in three-dimensional terms. I know it's hard to see whenever we're looking out over the flatness of the lake, even if it's some chop. But we have to think about it as if we're down under the water with those bass. They may be pulled back from the bank just a little bit into some deeper water to make themselves feel comfortable, but they are not going to shy away from the sunlight. Shallower water, darker water, that's what they're going to be searching for. If they can find some stained water, especially water that has good sun exposure in the morning. If there's some stained water that has some good sun exposure, that water is going to heat up, that water is going to hold heat, and those bass and panfish and bait fish and whatever else are going to congregate in those areas. Those are going to be prime fishing spots. So near the bank, that can be a bonanza. But off of the bank, well, your bass may not exactly want to go far away. A lot of times they're not going to pull out very far because they just don't have the energy to. So they're going to pull back maybe 20, 30 yards away from the bank just to get a little bit deeper water. Those bass are going to get as deep as they comfortably can. They're going to find the water. They're going to find the depth that makes them comfortable. And it's not that hard to find. They are not way over there like you think they are. Chances are they may have moved off of the bank just a little bit and eased down, but they're still in those same pockets. They're still in those same areas where you were finding them before. And a lot of times, especially if you've got a deeper drop off near the bank, they're going to be a lot closer to the bank than you think they are. Like I said, I'm catching loads of fish under flooded brush right near the bank. Those bass, though, rather than going after something that's above them, they want it down on the bottom. It doesn't matter if it's 3 feet of water, 2 feet of water, or 10 feet of water. I'm catching bass on the same types of presentations. Like this. A little 1/4 ounce jig. I've got a half of a yum dinger as the trailer. And this is what I'm using. I'm using this on a bait cast setup. And if you notice, I'm trying out some new line. This is a new brand of braid, a premium brand of braid that I'm testing out. I'm giving it the work. I'm throwing it around, seeing how well it does, really want to run it through the ringer. And then I'm going to let you guys know what I think about it. So I've got some fluorocarbon, I've got some braid, and that line is, I'm putting it to the test. So far, I'm really liking it. I really like that braid. It's very, very smooth, very much like butter. It's a lot smaller than my normal size braid, even though it's the same pound test, and in some cases a little higher. But anyway, I'm testing that new line out. But the baits that I'm using, like I said, I'm staying closer to the bottom. To begin with, that's what I was doing. You guys saw the video where I was working Ned rigs. I'm working small jigs. I'm working little Texas rigs right up under the water, right near the bottom, and that's where I was getting bites. But as that weather stays the same, those bass get acclimated, well, that's when this guy comes out, the Waco rig. And like I was mentioning just a few minutes ago, my wife was with me the last time I was out, and a Waco rig, a jerkbait, or a spy bait. That's what she wants to have tied on this time of year. And obviously, she had to go with the Waco rig. She had to have a Waco rig tied on. This is her confidence bait. It's a confidence bait for me, too. But now as those bass have actually started to settle in some, still fishing slow, still fishing very, very slow, but I can come up off of the bottom because those bass don't have their bellies in the mud so much. They're actually getting used to their surroundings. And this, well, this is what she did her damage on. This is the setup. She never changed it all day. Once she had the Waco rig in her hand, she was tearing them up all day on that.
I took Dan out here, and we were fishing in this area right here. And that's when he caught his first topwater fish. Are you kidding me? Again? Again? Look at you. Look at you. Yeah, well, wading through the dinks, but we'll take a dink over a skunk, won't we?
Yeah.
Check you out. Half a pound, maybe a little
Yeah.
north of half a pound.
Little.
But still. Are you going to say that I wish I never caught him?
No, because, I mean, he bit like he was hungry.
Beautiful.
Fishing it slow, almost like you would a fluke or a jerkbait. A couple of twitches on slack line, let it float down. When it floats down, it looks like a wacky rig because it's middle weighted. A couple more taps on a slack line and that bait darts around and then it floats down. So that's how you entice those bass in the winter. You understand that when that water changes, when the conditions change, those bass are going to react. They're not going to be setting up the same way. However, gradually over time, they will get back to where they were. You can find the bass in those predictable spots still. They may be a little bit deeper and they may be a little bit more finicky, but as my wife found out, you can still catch a lot of nice fish. And you know what? Right after we got off of the lake, she had to go buy some warmer gear because she's going to be going with me all the time this winter. It was her first time going. She caught a lot of fish. Obviously, she wants to keep doing that. And if you've got the right gear, you've got some warm clothes, you've got dressed in layers, you'll be okay. And that's what she found out. So don't be afraid to go out when it's cold. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself in the wintertime. There are some great fish to be caught. Everything doesn't have to be a jerkbait. We tie on a jerkbait, end all be all of winter bass fishing, throw it around, and we end up not getting any bites. So change things up. Ned rigs are great. Waco rigs are great. NACO rigs are great. Wacky rigs are great. I like to go slow. And when I think I'm not going slow enough, I go a little bit slower. And when I think I am going slow enough, I go a little bit slower. And you'd be surprised at just how many bites you can get and how aggressively those bass will bite your lure. So think about that. Next time when you're out, look a little bit deeper, try to fish a little bit deeper, and see what kind of results you get. So there you have it. Simple and easy methods to locate those bass whenever the water and weather gets cold. Just remember, keep things simple. There's no need to be complicated about it. And if you give the bass enough time, things will normalize and that bite will come right back. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.